It's coming at us. From the very start down to the last part, every inch of our life is controlled by what we think. There's a starting point to everything we know. And whether that starting point is theological or economics, we're always asking ourselves, where are we going to go from here? Because life is essentially a journey. So Isaiah 25 talks about something that hits me pretty hard. And essentially it says that even from that time, with the ancient Israelites, there was those who wanted to pollute the world. They were breaking the covenant. They didn't quite get the fact that God wasn't content with them living as they pleased. It says in that passage in Isaiah that part of polluting is breaking the covenant that God has made with us. And in every covenant there's a twofold process. The first street is God responding to us because He made us, and the second, us responding to God. Of course, initially God is the one that has to begin that process. He's the, as Aristotle used to call, the first mover. So Aristotle called him the first mover. I would call him the immovable mover. At the end of the day, God is who He is, and we have to understand that, embrace that, and begin to form our character not in essence of what we believe, but in essence of who He is. Oh, I just littered. You know, there's a problem with that. We can't be littering. When I was in college, I used to go around and pick up trash. I'd find things laying around all over Wheaton College, and I'd basically spend that time in prayer, searching for God's will, just like every stupid college kid does. But part of what I would do is make a little fun out of it. I was studying communism at the time. Not of the wealth, but redistribution of the trash. Because at the end of the day, I would go pick up the trash to redistribute it. Then one summer I lived out in D.C., and I would come home exhausted working for a former congressman who was my boss there, and I loved the job, but I would walk by this hillside and it was always covered with trash, and it killed me. All I wanted to do was just pick up every last piece. Every day I would pick up a few. It was nasty. There was also just like random, Dorito bags, Cheeto bags. Who eats Cheetos? At the end of the day, I would take those back, throw them away, feeling somewhat satisfied. At the end of the summer, I went back there. It was one of my last days before my internship was over, and I saw this whole team of convicts, and they were picking up all the trash. At first I was mad at them because they were doing what I did, and they were taking away my job. But then I realized that there was no way I was going to finish that whole hillside. And I was so thankful to God that He had sent them. And I recognized the value of individual responsibility in conservation, but also the fact that we need a community to do it. We have to take initiatives that are larger than ourselves. It's not enough just to recycle. We have to recycle, but it's only the start. We also have to push our government and push local municipalities to think about these things and to get on board. Push our churches, not just to have days where we, have prayer meetings, but what about trash meetings? Why don't we go out and pick up the dirty condoms that are lining the ground and the pop cans, and just get out there and mix things up a little bit. I mean, it's not enough just to say we'll keep our houses clean. Why can't we keep our communities clean? Do we really value what God's entrusted us with? Do we really read Genesis, where He asks us to be stewards of the earth, not polluters of the earth? Remember that passage we talked about in Isaiah? Ultimately, if we pollute, we break the covenant that God's formed with us. See, it's not that you can't have a sweet SUV. The key is making sure that those in other countries like China and India, that if we're going to start to control our emissions, that they control theirs as well. Because as Tony Blair said the other day, within 2 years, even if the USA and Britain joined the Kyoto Treaty, China would surpass our carbon emissions. So this is a global issue. We need to get our brothers and sisters rallied up about this everywhere, because otherwise, how are we going to keep these sweet cars on the road, huh? If heaven and earth are places that meet in our souls, and they really are temples where the Shekinah glory comes down, then we have to realize that our souls are what matter. God didn't give us the world to just enjoy and just to rock climb. He gave us the world to learn about Him. Isn't that a beautiful thought?
Life's too short to waste on love that keeps